activity, exercise should be part of your daily life. This weekend, I played some squash. I was trying to play some tennis, a little bit of bike riding, broke a few pedals, a few strings, on my bike there, not strings, but brakes or something. And I love to hear the best way to be active when the sun's out. Exercise during the summer. Take it away.
Yeah, so welcome everyone to our webinar. We're going to be discussing how to kind of be active in safe ways when it's pretty hot in the summer. So we're going to cover kind of everything on this table of contents slide, but let's get right into the first thing, which is exercise requirements. So I know we mentioned this in almost every single webinar, but it's really important. So that's why we keep repeating it. And it's the amount of exercise you're supposed to be having per week. So what you should try to aim to do is 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity per week. So that could be things like running, swimming, cycling, playing soccer, squash like Dr. Curnew, or going on the elliptical. These are things that are really working your heart. And we want to make sure we're doing more than just walking. Walking is a great exercise, but we want to make sure we're getting that heart rate up with these 150 minutes. And then on top of that, you should probably aim for about 2 days of muscle strengthening activity. So this could include things like weightlifting. Pilates has been really popular lately. And then also using things like resistance bands or maybe cans and water bottles you can find around your house just to try and build that muscle strength. And it's really important to remember that some activity is better than none. So I know we can have really busy weeks, but it's really important that we make exercising a priority when we are kind of doing our day-to-day lives. And when we are exercising, it is really important that we also consider the nutrition alongside that.
So
So
this is actually an important slide in the sense of we grew up with aerobic activity that we should be out there running, walking. Good starting point is sort of just walking, and 30 to 60 minutes most days is a good thing. But this business about muscle strengthening, that's something relatively new in the last number of years, and you hear this over and over again. As I get older, I get weaker. An average individual between the ages of 30 and 70 can lose half their muscle mass. Let me repeat that. An average individual between the ages of 30 and 70 will lose half their muscle mass. And the best way to prevent this is to build muscle early in life and not get older. So if you're going to age, then you have to age gracefully and well. And that includes weight training. So I started weight training about a year or 2 years ago. I wish I did this much earlier in life. And basically, my body composition is I have too much fat, not enough muscle. And I'm working very hard to do about this. And so, yes, getting an adequate nutrition with protein that's the easy part. Lifting weights, I never thought at this stage in life I'll be lifting weights. And I'm doing it at least two, probably four times a week. And if I should do it, you should do it too as well. And we'll tell you why and how to do this. So please, please, please think of some way of using muscle training, resistance training, either from the chair, from walking, carrying something. Um, find a way. And simply think there's two types of falls. There's the young person's fall. So if you guys who are giving the presentation, Hill and your team falls, you'll break your wrist. When someone my age falls, we break our hip because we don't have the balance to catch ourselves. And if you break your hip, bad things happen and a very high mortality, somewhere between 10 to 20 to 30% of individuals will pass away in the next year or two from simply a hip fracture. The complications of that, because once you fall and break things, you lose confidence. And right now is that my sense of balance is nowhere near as good. So I'm doing some resistance training. I'm also doing balance training too as well. Maybe we'll touch about that as well. So please, 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 if you want to enjoy the golden years, you need to have this component to your life. This is actually Dr. Attia is an expert on longevity, and he stresses the importance of your VO2 max, your exercise fitness, but also your muscle strength as well. So please pay attention to this. You can do it. Find a way. I'll be quiet for a little bit.
thanks, Dr. Curnew. But it is also really important that when we are exercising, we're eating the right things, like Dr. Curnew had mentioned briefly there. So we do want to just do a little bit of a spiel about what you should eat before exercise, specifically when before and after exercise, specifically when it's pretty warm outside. So if we can go to the next slide, we'll kind of break up what it actually entails. So before you exercise, you should really make sure you're having something in your body with carbohydrates. And when we say carbohydrates, we want to make sure we're having those healthy whole food carbohydrates. So things like fruits, whole grains, the things that are actually going to be good for our bodies, not necessarily like chocolate bars that might make us feel more lethargic when we're exercising. So you should also try to get some protein in your body. I know sometimes it might not be maybe if you're exercising in the morning, making an egg before you go to the gym, you might not have time. So even grabbing a banana or something that you can have, which is my favorite snack to have before a workout, you should try to aim to have that about 30 minutes to 1 hour before you begin exercising. And that kind of, and especially making sure you're drinking a lot of water before you exercise as well. So then after you do all that, then you go to exercise. And what you want to eat after is you want to make sure you're eating within 2 hours after you exercise. So you want to try and eat something high in protein, especially if after you did those strength training exercises, because we want to make sure we're maintaining that muscle, but also we want to make sure we're eating those foods with carbohydrates because we want to replenish the glycogen storage that we had lost during our exercise. So that can prevent things like making you feel weak or making you kind of faint after. We want to make sure we're not decreasing our blood glucose too much to make us feel uneasy after we exercise, because that's not our goal. So a really good example of something I like to have is I like to make a smoothie. So I like putting like spinach, kale, and then some fruits and vegetables. I really like berries right now, and then some protein powder, and then blend it all up. And that's a really good thing to kind of sip after you have your workout. And then on the next slide, we also have some other ideas you can have. So things like before you work out, you can have things like egg whites, banana with peanut butter, granola bars, black coffee, which has been shown to kind of improve exercise in that your ability to exercise. But then after you work out, you can have things like scrambled eggs, a protein bar, cottage cheese and fruit, some Greek yogurt and fruit, just kind of some salmon and tuna, just ways to kind of increase, get that protein in and then get that glucose in as well. But then that's kind of our spiel about exercise and requirements. And now we're going to kind of pass it on to what we're actually going to be doing and how the warm weather impacts us when we work out.
Hello, everyone. So, like Haley said, we're going to be talking a little bit about warm weather and what kind of impacts that has on our exercise and on our physical activity. So, first thing is mood and motivation. So, warm weather improves mood, which can make you more eager to exercise. You kind of notice within yourself that when it gets to spring and summertime and the weather's nicer outside and the sun is out, you kind of feel more motivated and more inclined to exercise. So, as spring approaches, the days get longer, or at least it feels that way. Temperature increases and there's more blue skies, and these are all things that is kind of physical stimulus that make you more willing to want to exercise. So not only is it generally more pleasant outdoors, but physical activities like walking can be safely done outside. So it's not like the winter where you have snow and ice and these kind of hazards that you can slip on. In the summer, it's more safe generally. So move on to the next slide. There have also been a lot of studies done that prove that levels of sunlight actually affect our cognition levels. They affect how fast and how well our mind works. So this also contributes to why when we're outside during the spring and the summer, and there's more sunlight, we're able to think clearer and we're able to exercise better in comparison to being out in the fall or the winter. Serotonin and melatonin regulations, mechanisms that are involved in the relationships between sunlight and light therapy on mood, are also involved in cognition, which suggests that cognitive function, or basically how well our mind works, can also be influenced by light. So on the upcoming slide, I believe, yeah, on the slide after this, we talk about weight loss a little bit here. So weight, as I'm sure you guys know, is largely determined by diet and exercise. These two things really need to go hand in hand. You know, if you have a good diet but you're not getting enough exercise, you might not be seeing the results that you want to see. And if you have a lot of exercise but you're not maintaining a good diet, you might not also be seeing the results that you want to see. So as spring brings warmer weather, we have more options for local produce like fruits and vegetables. Healthy options provide necessary nutrients without extra calories. So consuming less calories than the body, than the energy used by the body causes weight loss. So that's called a caloric deficit, and there's a caloric surplus. So our body as humans, whether you're female or male, and it also depends on a lot of other factors such as age, need a certain amount of calories to function. So if you have less calories than these per day, that's what causes your body to lose weight. And then one of the countless benefits of exercise is that your body uses energy burning through built up stores like fat. So our body also stores fat cells. So when we exercise, we kind of burn through those fat cells, and that's where the carbohydrates and a lot of the proteins are stored when we eat. So exercising will burn through that, and that's how you lose weight as well. Prolonged exercise mobilizes fatty acids from adipose tissue, allowing your body to use up the fat stores. Move up to the next slide. Yeah, so there's also been a lot of articles and research papers done showing that dieting is seasonal, and it reaches peak intensity during the spring. So there's this kind of stigma, I want to say, that spring and the summer are the best time to lose weight, because in spring and summer, this kind of mentality rolls in that we all want to look good, we all want to feel good. So we're more inclined and we're more motivated to work out and to exercise and to eat healthy and to do all of these things that are beneficial for us. If you ask me, I think that this is a mentality that we should be having all year long, even in the winter and in the fall. We should try to be doing as much as we can to maintain a good diet, to get that exercise. But it would also be very smart of us to kind of take advantage of that during the spring and the summer when it's nice outside and when the sun's out, to kind of try and get that physical activity. And this is a diagram that actually shows how dieting peaks in the spring and body dissatisfaction peaks in the summer. So this is what I touched on briefly. So on the black dotted line here, that represents dieting. So the intensity of dieting, the higher we go on the chart, the more intense people diet. And the black solid line represents body dissatisfaction. So according to this diagram here, we see that most people diet, or they very intensely diet during the spring, and that's largely due to them wanting to look good for the summer, because we all again have that kind of mentality of summer body, or I'm going to be wearing shorts and a t-shirt, so we want to look good and feel good for ourselves and for others. And then body dissatisfaction peaks in summer. And that's largely due to that a lot of us, we only really care about our health and our diet and our physical activity when it comes to spring and summertime, and it's not something that we're trying to maintain throughout the year. So it's really important that throughout the year, especially during fall and winter, we try to do as much as we can. Like Haley said earlier, a little exercise is better than no exercise, to try and keep that physical activity rolling in throughout the year. Some benefits of exercising outdoors. So both exercising and spending time outdoors have healthy benefits. So doing both simultaneously has a long list of positive effects. So like we said earlier, exercising outdoors can be very beneficial for us because the sun's out, and we can kind of get more physical activity. But some direct, I want to say, pros to doing this are: it can reduce stress, it can boost your mood, it can increase your exercise enjoyment, it can enhance your social well-being, it can increase disease prevention, it can provide exercise variety, and increases connectedness to nature. So the more we're outside and the more we're seeing the trees and the grass and the plants and all of these things, we feel more connected to nature, as well as all of these other benefits. Yeah, so there's also been a lot of benefits done that actually prove that being outside, simply being outside and being on the grass, near the trees, near the plants, can actually make our exercise a lot more efficient. So participants tend actually to walk faster outdoors compared to indoors without even realizing it. Paradoxically, they report a lower rating of perceived exertion. So what this is basically saying is that when we take the initiative to exercise outside and get our physical activity outdoors, a lot of the participants that were participating in the study actually perceived that they were walking faster without even noticing it, and that their exercise was causing less exertion. So they were getting tired. It took them a longer time to get tired. They weren't getting tired as easily. So it's another big pro to working out outside and getting our exercise outside, that we can find ourselves doing more exercise and taking a longer time for it to tire us out. Move on to the next slide. So this is a brief exercise that we wanted to do kind of just as a break before we move on to the next section. So it's a lateral raise. So I'll get up to demonstrate this, but basically how you want to do this is ideally you would have weights, which I do not have right now, but you'd be holding the weights in each of your hands, and then you'd hold them to your hip like this. And it's really important to have your knuckles facing away from your body, like so. And then it's also really important to straighten out your elbows. So for this exercise, we're going to be raising the weights like this. And I know if the weights are heavy, our first instinct is to kind of bend our elbows and try to bring it up. But we want to try to resist that as much as we can. And we want to keep our arms straight because that's when you really get that burn up here in your shoulder. And that's where you can get the most effectiveness for the exercise. So you want to keep your hands straight, holding the weights next to your hips, and then pull them both up like that. So yeah.
Awesome. So now that we've kind of had a little bit of an introduction about exercising outdoors and the benefits for that, now let's get into what we can actually do outdoors for exercise. So like we mentioned back in our exercise requirements, there's two main parts. So that's what we'll be discussing today. So the first one is aerobic exercises. So these include things that make your heart beat really fast or make your heart muscles actually work. So these include things like jogging, hiking, jump rope, biking, and then playing sports like basketball, tennis, badminton, soccer, the things that you feel that your heart is racing and you are sweating. That's kind of my mindset of aerobic exercise. And these are really great ways to not only get outside, but then also get moving when we are outside. And there are some helpful tools on how you can actually do this when you are outdoors. So hiking is something I love to do in the summertime, and it's something that is really cool to do in Hamilton, especially with all the nature that's surrounding it. So if you go on to the next slide, we have 3 examples here of different trails you can go on in Hamilton, but specifically what we wanted to showcase, because we know that everyone might not be easily accessible to these trails. So you can actually end up using an app, which we kind of showcased here, called the AllTrails app. And it's an app that you can use to kind of find different hiking trails in the area that you're in. So if you look here, there's an example of kind of how the app works there, and it shows you things like how long the hike is, the difficulty of the hike, and then how like the of the height levels of the trail, so that you kind of know what you're getting into before you do it, and you can kind of see. So if you're in for more of a challenging hike, you can go to more of a difficult trail, or if you want more of just a scenic hiking route, you can go to a less difficult trail. Something also you can incorporate when you are hiking is putting like ankle weights around your wrists. That's a really good way to incorporate resistance training on top of aerobic training, because as you're moving your arms, you're almost giving yourselves an arm workout by giving a little bit of resistance in that sense too. So this is something we wanted to showcase just in case anyone would be interested. It is free as well on the App Store, so it's really accessible to everyone. And then when we do also think about different outdoor activities, we also think about things.
Haley, is this app available in the sense, is this for trails everywhere around the world, Canada, just locally? How far does it go?
I'm pretty sure it's like all around the world. Like it's mostly the most popular trail. So if you go to like Hamilton, but then if you want to go to like Algonquin, it'll also show all those trails too. But like maybe the more like secret trails it might not have, but the ones that are publicized online that there's information, that's the ones that are kind of in the app's kind of database and can pull from. So there might be like niche trails that locals might know about that aren't on the app, but this is a really good way to see the more populated trails, which might be even safer if you're going maybe up north when you're seeing more animals that you might want to be wary of too, because the more public a trail is, kind of the safer it's tending to be for hikers especially.
So one thing you can also do is, my family doctor has lost a lot of weight. What he does, he carries a backpack, puts weights in it. The guy that does my training sessions does that too as well. So if you want to lose 25 pounds, why don't you just carry 25 pounds all the time and just see what your body's straining about that. So add a backpack if you can do that too as well. So you got your wrists to do things out there, and that's wonderful. And then stop and do some push-ups, sit-ups along the way too if you want.
That's a really great way to kind of incorporate both like resistance training and walking on the trails too, which is a really good idea. And then on top of just hiking trails, we also in Hamilton have a lot of different outdoor centers we can use and make use of. So the city of Hamilton actually has some really cool tools, one of which is called the Park Finder, in which you can actually look up different parks in the city of Hamilton that you can go to and explore. And some of these parks might even have different kind of jungle gym equipment that might you can kind of incorporate into exercise. So I've seen people go and do like tricep dips on stairs of a jungle gym equipment because again, like Dr. Curnew said, it's a really great time to kind of when you're on a walk, stop and just do some strength training and you can incorporate both of those at the same time. And then there are also some different sports fields. So we found out you can rent pickleball courts, which I know is a really popular sport at the moment, but then also you can look at different sports fields. So if you really love playing like soccer or baseball or basketball, you can look at these things through the city of Hamilton and by looking up how to find different courts and stuff. And then on top of that, the Hamilton Conservation Authority also has a lot of great resources that share different trails that you can take as well. So if maybe an app isn't your thing, you can also look them up through that, especially in the Hamilton local area. But then if you go to different places, they'll have similar things as well. And then apart from just within the area, what we also want to consider when we are doing aerobic exercises outside is the warm weather. So when the temperature is higher than about 24 degrees, there may be an added heart rate increase, even more so due to humidity, and that just is because of the temperature outside. So when there's increased temperature and we have increased aerobic intensity, that increases sweating for us, which then leads to increased heat strain and can lead to dehydration and heat stress. So going back to kind of what I said before, making sure you're staying hydrated before your walks and before you're exercising outside. My favorite way to stay hydrated is I don't get out of the bed until I finish one of these water bottles. And then for every portion of the day, I have to finish one. So in the morning, I finish another, the afternoon, I finish another, and in the evening, I finish another. So by the end of the day, I'm having 4 of these water bottles, making sure that I'm setting kind of these little goals for myself so that I'm staying hydrated in that sense. Because when you are dehydrated and your dehydration becomes pretty severe, about 2% of one's body mass will actually lead to hyperthermia and a reduction in plasma levels, and it can actually negatively impact your aerobic performance. And then your muscle blood flow is also reduced, and that means that your muscle metabolism is a bit altered, so you might not be gaining the strength that you want to gain as well. But when we say all these drawbacks, we also want to give some solutions for that. So on the next slide, we've outlined kind of 4 things to keep in mind when we are doing aerobic exercises in the warm weather. So the first thing is before starting an exercise, make sure you're well hydrated. So set those water goals for you. Do something where you put a glass of water beside your bed and you're not allowed to get out of bed until you finish that whole glass of water. That's a really good way to start off your hydration for the day and then drink throughout the day as well. Wear light and breathable clothing, especially if it is pretty humid. So do whatever you feel comfortable with in your clothing, but sometimes some light and breathable clothing that's easy for air to move through is a really good way to keep you cool as well. And then also a really good idea is to either exercise in the morning or the evening where it's still nice and warm outside, but it's not that high level of heat that afternoon kind of hits. And then finally, stay close to home. So if you are pretty heat sensitive, do something that's close in your close environment. So if it does get too hot, you can move your exercises indoors quite easily.
So another way to exercise is resistance exercise. So some activities that can be done outdoors are doing lateral squat walks, squats, V crunches, bench dips, and calf raises, which there's all the examples shown there of how you can perform them. And then they can also be, each of them can be modified by adding any sort of dumbbells or even doing them against your body weight. So there's a lot of room to play. So one of the best ways to resistance train outdoors is to join one of the many outdoor fitness programs that are currently being offered in Hamilton. So activities such as yoga, tai chi, walk fit, and stability, strength, and tone are being offered starting July 2nd. I know that's like earlier in the month. And then it ends August 24th. And I specifically wanted to point out that there is the stability, strength, and tone class, which I do think would be able to offer the most resistance training exercise. But any of them would still be beneficial because, as kind of the message of the whole club is, any exercise is good exercise. And here's kind of listed the program schedule for the week. So you can kind of just take a little moment and just read where each of these programs are hosted and which days and which time of the day. So yeah. And another great way to resistance train outdoors is by simply going to the park with your own equipment or go to a park that has an outdoor fitness equipment, such as I heard that Woodlands Park in Hamilton has an outdoor fitness gym, but I also saw that there's some construction going on currently, so I'm not the most sure of how accessible it is right now. But other than that, there's many parks in Hamilton, and many of them have these QR fitness trails, meaning that at certain spots you can use your phone to scan the QR code, and a video instructing you how to do an exercise will pop up. So this can allow you to bring your own exercise equipment from home and complete the activities outdoors. So I feel like it kind of goes back to the whole message of Dr. Curnew was saying, how you can go on a little walk and then kind of stop and do some sort of exercise and add a weight on it to make it also a resistance exercise. Also, resistance training doesn't have to be very complicated in the sense of buying new equipment. You can use a lot of your own things that are lying around the house. So kind of a do-it-yourself DIY resistance training equipment. So some examples of this are using 2 old plastic water bottles and filling them with sand, stone, water, anything of the equivalent as dumbbells. Using an old laundry detergent bottle, preferably with a handle so it's easier to grip, filled with, again, water, sand, or stones as a dumbbell or even as a kettlebell, just with the one. You can fill a backpack with books and to add weight for when doing squats or even walking, going up the stairs, anything that kind of is an exercise that you can put a backpack on your back. And lastly, and most simply, is I think using your own body weight against a park bench to add some resistance, or just anything that kind of requires you to lean, is you can just use your body weight to modify that exercise. So resistance training is very important because it increases cardiovascular health, such as improving the amount of blood pumped by the heart per minute, improving stroke volume, which is the volume of blood that is pumped out of the left ventricle during systole, as well as improving maximum oxygen uptake, which is the maximum amount of oxygen that a person can use during intense exercise. It also increases muscle strength and muscle activity, and it decreases the risk of cardiovascular events through decreasing hypertension and dyslipidemia, which is pretty much just an abnormal level of lipids in the blood. It can either be low or high, and it increases insulin sensitivity. Lastly, it decreases the perceived physical exertion of patients who performed at submaximal levels. So it pretty much allows you to work harder without feeling that you are working that hard. So however, when exercise training isn't done, muscles can become inactive. So there are numerous effects because of this. So firstly, it increases muscle fatigue that makes activities of daily living become harder to accomplish. Additionally, muscle strength, mass, and power are decreased, which can lead to muscle atrophy. It also leads to decreased insulin sensitivity and increased integrated muscle protein synthesis, which simply put is when the process of producing new muscle protein decreases. So you may not see again the results that you'd want if you suddenly started to lift weights and have that muscle. And then all of these factors that were mentioned previously result in an increase in cardiovascular risk factors. So an activity for this section is going to be calf raises. So first I'm kind of just going to explain how to do them and then I'll show them. So there's different modifications that you can do. So you can do a double calf raise. So this is where the heels of both feet are raised by extending the ankle as high as you're able to and then lowering the heel by bending the ankle and stretching the calf. A single calf raise where only one heel is raised and the other leg is lifted towards the back and the knee is bent, as you can see in the second picture, in the middle picture. And then you can do a seated calf raise where it's a double calf raise, but in a seated position. And with these, as you can see, you can modify them depending on where you want to step. If you want to do the double calf raise kind of on a step, like even on a trail, if there's like if there's steps and if it's safe to do so. single calf raise anywhere, and then a seated calf raise. You can even do at the park. So I'm going to do the seated. Actually, I'll show both. I'll show all of them. I'm just going to have to position so you can kind of see my feet better. So you can do like a, I'm so sorry guys, this is, okay. So you can do like the double calf raise. You can see like being sure that you're starting off flat and then making really sure that you're having control over it of how you're doing the calf raise. And then you have your single calf raise where you have your leg bent. And then again, just is focus a lot on balance as well, but definitely do it to the level that you feel comfortable with. And again, and then you have your seated one, which I feel could be the most accessible in the park just because there's always a park bench to sit on, so you can enjoy nature and the little calf raise. And also you can definitely do them with weights as well. You can put the weights here and then you just make sure that you're starting off touching your feet with the floor and then just having that control, not extending your ankle. So yeah, lots of different versions of that exercise that you can do anywhere.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to some considerations that we should think about when we are exercising and going outdoors. So if we look at the next slide, we're going to be talking about protection from the sun. So as stated previously, going outside for exercising has many benefits such as reducing stress. However, some precautions need to be taken prior to exposed sun and heat exposure. First and foremost, sunscreen is an essential precaution to take to prevent sunburns or more effects the UV rays can have on the skin, such as skin cancers. Sunscreens are assigned a sun protection factor, which tells the user the efficacy of blocking out UV rays. Sunscreen labels are important to note, so a higher SPF index refers to a greater sun protection from harmful UV rays. Furthermore, ensure that your sunscreen of choice blocks out both UVA and UVB rays, and that you reapply your SPF of greater than 15 every 2 hours to ensure your skin is adequately protected from the UV rays. Additionally, wearing clothing that offers more coverage can help to protect you from the UV rays. Did you know that your eyes can also get sunburnt? So photokeratitis is also known as sunburnt eyes, can occur after intense sun exposure over a prolonged period of time. Hence, sunglasses are an extra precaution to preserve your vision. From personal experience, my ears, face, and the back of my neck tend to get sunburned quite easily since there's no clothing that really protects those areas. So wearing a wide-brimmed hat can help to protect those areas against harmful UV rays. Finally, the easiest and most effective way of preventing sun damage caused by UV rays is to remain in the shade for the duration of your time outside, if that's possible. So now if we look at the next slide, we're going to just talk a bit more about SPF. So take a moment to recall what you know about the SPF number indicated on your favorite bottle of sunscreen. Many people believe that the SPF index of the bottle refers to the duration of time the SPF protects your skin. However, SPF actually refers to the strength of the protection. So overall, a higher SPF number on the bottle indicates a stronger protection. So if we go to the next slide, we're going to talk a bit about UV indexes. So UV indexes can be found on weather apps, such as the Weather Network app that you can find on like the App Store, and this guide will help you to protect yourself against the harmful UV rays. So a low UV index indicated as 0 to 2 requires minimal protection. A moderate UV index indicated as 3 to 5 requires precautions if you are outside for 30 or more minutes. So sunscreen and outerwear can protect your skin against the damaging rays. A high UV index indicated as 6 to 7 requires protection. So if possible, reducing outdoor time between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. when the UV rays are strongest is advised. However, covering up and wearing sunscreen is an essential alternative if you can't find shade. Very high UV and extreme UV indices, indicated as 8 to 10 and 11 plus respectively, require additional precautions. So if you can't avoid the sun between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m., wear sunglasses, sunscreen, outerwear, and find shade. So to sum all this up, the higher the UV index, the greater the risk of sunburn, cataracts, skin aging, and skin cancer, so sun protection is essential. Just to note, sand and snow act as reflective surfaces and can drastically increase UV exposure, so even in the winter, sunscreen is still pretty important. Now if we go on to the next slide, we're going to talk a bit about hydration. So despite the multitude of benefits that accompany the sun and summer, the hot and humid environment can have deleterious effects on your health, so it's important to remain properly hydrated. Did you know that men older than 19 years of age should intake about 13 cups of fluid per day, and women older than 19 years of age should intake about 9 cups of fluid per day? If you're concerned that you're not consuming enough water,
your body has some indicators that you can be on the lookout for. So for example, urine color and volume, thirst, fatigue, cognitive impairments, etc. are some indicators that you may be dehydrated. So to avoid dehydration during these summer months, avoid exercising outdoors between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m., as these are the hottest hours of the day. Hydrate prior to working out and quench your thirst every 15 minutes during your exercise session. Carrying water with you while working out can serve as a gentle reminder to replace the fluids you've lost during your exercising. And try to drink 2 cups of fluid for every pound that you lose during the activity to prevent dehydration. Finally, a tip to prevent dehydration and to retain the water that you are replenishing is to add a pinch of salt. So this helps to replenish electrolytes and to increase water absorption while decreasing the risk of hydration. Now, if we go to the next slide, we're going to be talking a bit about heat stroke. So oftentimes we hear about heat stroke and take precautions to avoid this ailment, but it's really important to understand what heat stroke is. So heat stroke occurs when our body is no longer capable of regulating its own temperature. So our internal temperature soars and the body is unable to cool itself down. Our body's natural mechanism of cooling down, sweating, fails, and the body temperature can reach dangerously high temperatures within 10 to 15 minutes. So heat stroke can present itself as very high body temperatures, hot and dry skin, strong pulses, seizures, and can result in unfortunate fatalities if heat stroke treatment isn't administered within a timely manner. So, to avoid heat stroke, drink plenty of water, dress appropriately, and find air-conditioned places to cool off if you get a headache, feel very thirsty, are feeling confused, etc. So, to cool a person experiencing heat stroke, place cold, wet cloths on the skin and call 911 if emergency care is required. Now, if we go to the next slide, we're going to talk about what is considered too hot. So although exercising outdoors has many benefits, transitioning from outdoor exercising to indoor exercising can be a really good idea if the outdoor temperatures reach 30 degrees and above, just because that increases the risk of heat stroke and dehydration. So if we go to the next slide, we're going to move on to another one of our exercise breaks. So these are called plie squats, which are great for targeting some of the lower body muscles, including your glutes, inner thighs, quads, and hamstrings. So I feel like you can use this exercise as a warm-up or like in addition to your lower body workout routine. So there's 3 steps. I'm going to turn my light on. 3 steps to guide us through this. So the first step is you're going to want to turn your feet out to like a 45-degree angle. I'll lower this to like a 45-degree angle. You want to spread your legs till they're a little bit more than hip width apart. And then the second step is you want to bend and go down while keeping your core straight and strong, and then you want to come back up. And that's pretty much the movement. So, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Victoria. So that concludes the information session of our webinar today, but we just want to give you some reminders about the fun things that we have at Dr. Curnew's clinic. So if you are wanting to get into more movement and want some kind of peer support, the Wednesday group, or the Motivation, Mindfulness, and Moving group, meets every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on Zoom. And this is a really great way to interact with other patients who really love to support each other and provide a sense of community. So they talk a lot about different exercising and kind of what their goals are and how they can help achieve those goals. So if you wanted to sign up, you can either let Dr. Curnew know, or we have this link here that we'll also put in the description of the webinar. But if you do type this in, make sure it's in all caps because it is cap sensitive. And then in addition, we also have some of our exercise videos that we've made in the past that we wanted to just spotlight. So if you are interested in kind of ways to get moving and not sure where to start, you can start on Dr. Curnew's page by going to his YouTube page and just typing in exercise in the search bar. And a lot of different exercise routines will come up, which you can adopt and kind of add to your exercise routine. A lot of them are more resistance. So if you're looking for ways to increase your resistance exercising, this is a really good place to start. And in a different location, there's a playlist called I think it's exercise and movement, which we'll also put a link to in the description below. But that concludes our webinar for today. So if you switch to the final slide here, we have the email that you can connect with Dr. Curnew, and then the YouTube page that we can go to and our website directly. But thank you so much for spending your evening with us and listening to us talk about exercise. And we're really happy and hoping that we can motivate you to continue your summer off by moving and exercising your body.
That was wonderful. Just backtrack one slide there. One more. One more. Oh no, go back one more. Go forward now. Go forward. Okay, there's one that says METs. So that's called metabolic equivalence. So one MET is your basic metabolic need for rest, which is somewhere between 3.5 to 5 cc's per kilogram per oxygen uptake per minute. That's your horsepower. And so basically your goal is to, when you do a stress test, is how many METs can you achieve? So for every 1 MET increase in activity and fitness translates to reduction in cardiovascular events by 10%. So your goal should be over 12 METs of activity. That should be your horsepower. When you get sick, let's say you fall and break your hip, or you get a bed rest for a couple of weeks, you're going to lose up to 25% of your cardiac reserve very, very quickly. And you need 5 METs of activity to live at home and to function, to do your grocery shopping, to walk around your home. So I encourage you to increase your MET horsepower, and just keep working at this. Next slide, please. We have playlist, and that's wonderful. And then take a look at these events. They're anywhere from short videos from a few minutes to a few hours. So take a look at them. Next slide, please. I encourage you to come join us and to join the. If you can put the slide of the Wednesday session, that would be great. I think you have to backtrack a slide or two. Oh, there we go. Sorry, thank you. That's the direct link. So, is that a Zoom link we get into? Is that the way we go?
Yes, it's a Zoom link directly to the meeting. You can also save it. Sometimes if you ask us when you're in clinic next, the volunteers can show you how to save it on your phone like an application. And every time there's a meeting, you can click on the application and it takes you right to the Zoom. So you don't have to look for the link in your notes on your phone. It's just a little bit easier.
And you're welcome to come once, twice. There's a group of 3 wonderful young students, are actually not so much students anymore. They've been doing this for a long time. They're pros. And Jerry leads the mindfulness group. Hannah leads the motivation. I'm sorry, the mindfulness part. Dia leads this motivation group as well. And she's taught me that we have many repetitive thoughts that go through our minds, most of unpleasant and repetitive. So why should you let those 40 to 80,000 thoughts ruin your day, when in a period of a number of months you can have more resilience, more power, and feel better about yourself in the world? So start off with the 3 reasons why we're going to feel gratitude. So one reason why we're going to feel gratitude today is that I think we should try to end with some push-ups. Let me just see over here. Anybody want to do some push-ups with me at all? So I'm gonna see what I can do
Sure,
over
I'll join
here.
you can count. I'll go right here. Go ahead.
All right. Okay, ready? Here we go. Who's ready to do some push-ups? All right, here we go. Let's see what we can do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2. I'm done at
Beautiful.
22. Holy.
I finished at 25. It's quite, yeah, I've lost quite a bit of strength.
So remember that? I think February last year was the
Yep.
push-up challenge, the 2,000 push-ups, and so it's a good way to, when you put the coffee maker on,
Do a
some
few.
push-ups.
Yep.
And,
It's funny. It's actually quite rewarding. I remember after that month when I did, I could feel a bit of muscle, and I don't think it was a placebo effect. And now that I have stuff, I'm back to noodle arms. So I have to Keep trying and keep at it.
Yeah, yeah. So how many can you do? The guy I play squash with did the 2,000 in the first week.
That's
And
very impressive.
so in this weekend, we started playing squash on Sunday at 8 in the morning, and then we actually started off with a resistance training and played some squash and played some doubles, and then I went plane gliding, and I did a lousy job plane gliding, but that's life. So you have your good days and your bad days. So hopefully tomorrow will be a better day. And uh, you know, did I rode my bike a little bit on Saturday. I was going up these hills, and I'm having trouble with my gears, and they just keep slipping. And so I wish it was because all the power I can generate, but the gears slip there. So I gotta keep working on that. And and I need to be in the community there. So please find your community. Please make this really worthwhile. And I want to thank Haley, Victoria, Natalie, and Kiro, so sorry for all your hard work and efforts. What's your thoughts, Rad? And you know when the CN Tower is again?
I actually did check. I think this time will be early November, November 10th, I think. So,
Okay.
yeah, different
So
time this year.
yeah, so November is CN Tower time, I guess, and there's a Tuesday, sorry, a Saturday and a Sunday, and we're going to do one of those days. And anybody want to join the team, they're very welcome. We get there at 6 o'clock in the morning. We meet in Hamilton at 4:30 a.m. if you want to. If not, we can be in Toronto. And if you do it right, you get to the top of the CN Tower when the sun rises, and that's a beautiful sight. Um, I'm not sure if I can do it once or twice this year. We'll see what happens. I'll see if I can. I think I did it twice a year. This is with the United Way. Then the Animal Society is in the springtime. I think the reason why my time got faster is that I think they shortened, at least for the Animal Society. I'm not sure what they can do for the United Way. So it's 1,776 steps, but I think it looked a little shorter to me. But what do I know? I can't count that high. So please, please, please increase activity. It makes me feel better. I live longer. And again, I have too much fat, not enough muscle. I need to change that. You do too. Any final thoughts from anybody?
All good. Just one last thing. I think the name of the game is to keep going. Again, I sound like a broken record to myself, but I have this marathon mentality that anything in life, you have to be able to do it sustainably. Exercise is one of those very good examples of that. So I know summertime is the motivating time to move, but then as we get closer to October, November, winter time, you have to make sure you have a little bit of activity in your day. Walking is a great start. It keeps the momentum from the summer going. So that's the last thing. Whatever you do, just make sure something you can see yourself doing every week, and have fun, like Dr. Curnew. Improve, and see where it takes you.
So at this stage in life, I'm trying to devote 1 hour most days to some form of activity. Whether or not, and I don't count doing I think I'm averaging 11,000 steps plus a day for this year. So I'm trying to keep that going, but I'm also trying to spend 2 to 4 times a week resistance training and aerobic activity, so-called zone 2 training intensity, 3 to 4 times a week. And I can't do it by myself. I need to do other people. And maybe we'll broadcast when we start doing the Shadok stairs, and we can make sure on that app there. And I want to thank the whole crew for a wonderful presentation. Have a